about one of the reasons that our taxes are so high, and it has to do with the funding that we have to do for the pension, the public employees pension system. So we all feel the pinch of higher taxes, but it's important to understand that there are certain things that the city has to pay that are really beyond our control. So I encourage you to take a look at that. He says there are 3 items that really have increased our taxes, and that is one of them. I don't remember what the other 2 are, but I'm sure you can find out. The other thing I wanted to let you know is we've talked a lot about transparency and about the current issues that the city's having financially. This really goes back a lot farther. The mayor he put out a statement recently that had a link to files back to 2011, the reports from the city, the audits from the state, the audits of the city from the state, and there were deficiencies back then. So this is really nothing new. It's just we're kind of trying to figure out the best way to deal with it now. So if you don't go online and wade through Google Drive, you can go down to the mayor's office and ask to see those reports in hard copy. So thank you.
Anyone else? There's a comment up front here, John.
Thank you.
It's got to be green. John, you want to come over to the line? Here, let me give you the microphone. That'll answer you. Got it?
Kevin, thank you. This is Bev Strikers. I was just wondering, you mentioned local aid and $7 million a month that the city of Holyoke is not getting because of the situation going on. What exactly does local aid mean? Where is this money going to?
Right, so the state legislature appropriates funds that Holyoke is entitled to receive that they give to all the different communities of Mass, the 351 cities and towns. And the Department of Revenue controls those funds and how they're distributed to the community. So they've put a stop on those dollars. This is our aid effectively from the state. So essentially, Holyoke pays its bills with essentially 3 buckets of money primarily. One is state aid, local aid from the state government in its different forms. Some of it is money for the roads, some of it is money for the schools. It comes in a variety of forms. Then the second pot is money that we receive from grants, including from federal appropriations. And then the other third pot is money that we generate locally. And that can come in multiple forms. The most obvious one being property taxes, your auto excise tax, local sales tax, meals tax, hotel occupancy tax, a lot of these type of things, as well as money that we generate in the Treasury on our investments. So these are the sources. So that state appropriation funds is what they have said. That's their stick, carrot and stick to get you to do things. So what they've done is they have stopped those. Normally, we would be getting those payments. And what's sort of different this year than the other prior years, and so let me just give a little more detail on that, is in prior years, the end of every November, there are certain required paperwork and reconciliations that are supposed to be done and filed with the state. For the last couple of years, those have been filed late. And eventually the state says, look, those are due in November. If you don't turn them in by February, they start to shut the local aid off. So they did that in fiscal 24. And eventually our finance team here got the money, got that reporting in by June. So then they released the money in June that had been held. Of course, the problem with all those months and months of delays is the point that I made earlier, which is we lose access to those monies, we lose the interest on those monies, right? Okay, so then this happened again this particular year. The paperwork was not filed. It was supposed, so in February they stopped our payments, and this time we never turned the paperwork in. Okay? To my knowledge, I don't think we still have turned the paperwork in. All right? But the state did us a favor. I don't know, out of the kindness of their heart, or they wanted to clear it off their books, they gave us the money from February to June anyways, even though we never did what we were supposed to do. But what they did this time, though, is they actually immediately put the hold back on. We've never had that in place, where the money actually was frozen on July 1st. It's normally, if you don't turn it in the paperwork by November, they start freezing it in February. As soon as they gave that, they immediately put a new freeze on, and who knows if this ever gets let off until we do all the things that they've done. What they said, the October 1st letter, you must do it, or we're going to do these reconciliations ourselves. So that's the situation we're in right now. So no July, no August, September, October. So, just those months alone is $28 million. That's a lot of money. Thank you for the question.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
Regarding the treasurer, why is that treasurer issue still in committee? Why?
Well, I'm sure a number of counselors would have an opinion on that. I'll give you the Kevin perspective on it. Is my perspective, and by the way, Counselor Bacon just joined us, so thank you. I did introduce everybody else. So I wanna make
We
sure.
voted for the treasurer.
Yes, it was
So why
adopted.
is it still?
I think the majority view on the city council currently was to do other things than to just have an appointed treasurer. I think they wanted to have a chief administrative financial officer. I think they wanted to talk about having a combined treasurer collector. I think they wanted to talk about having a director of internal audit. They wanted to do all these other things and have a master plan which is quite thick of a lot of different things other than what the public actually voted to do, okay? So I think that was their thinking on it, from my perspective at least. My perspective on it was, let's get this person in place. That is what the public actually voted for. And then, again, as I stated earlier to an earlier question, is bring that competent person on board, which we should already have. People are talking about what's holding us back, what is the delay. We could already have, if we had listened to what the public had said and voted and approved everything upon the adoption of the vote of the public, we could already have the competent, highly qualified treasurer working for us right now, already back in the summer probably. And so that person would be part of our team, bringing us these solutions and working towards these other bigger structural changes that are being discussed. So yeah, that's my perspective. I think some just didn't want to do that alone. They wanted to do all these other things besides actually having the appointed treasurer.
Thank you.
I see Councilor Bacon's here. She wanted to.
Can we just remind everyone that you're not allowed to campaign with this event? It sounds like campaigning.
Hello? So I just wanted to provide an update.
Oh yeah, by the way, just to give some context, I had mentioned in my remarks that the ordinance committee was meeting tonight to discuss that issue. Councilor Bacon, is there an update from City Hall?
Yes, so I just wanted to give an update that we were able
Can you
to review a draft job description for treasurer and look at establishing a salary range. And so we did make some changes, and those changes will be coming back to committee for the next meeting. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to move something forward soon.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you for that update.
If I may, the young person, you mentioned the pension fund. I'm not sure what percentage of tax dollars goes into the pension fund, but the pension fund, for the most part, is solvent, and it's pretty well self-sufficient with the investments that they make. So I don't think that any taxes really goes into the pension fund.
Well, I would just refer you to the statement that came from the mayor's office on April 15th. It's online about the pension fund being one of the factors that's really driving taxes.
I'll research that. I'll research that. Thank you.
I think that's Linda back there who had made that point. It's a very good point Linda's actually making about the obligation of the city pension fund. One is our retirement board actually has done a really good job, and so taxpayers are aware our retirement board has had a very aggressive schedule relative to fully funding the city's pension fund. And it's something I support, and I think pretty much I think there's a lot of unanimity among counselors in terms of fully funding public pensions. We have a number of disagreements, but I think this is one thing that many people do agree on. And that they're currently on a schedule with good investments to have it fully funded in about 6 more years, approximately. So this is something that the city actually can take a lot of credit in, and it will ultimately, it is on an upward trajectory. I think the mayor's point, which is a valid one, from April, which was that years ago, decades ago, I mean, all the way back to when, if you really go back in the history of the Holyoke pension fund, which mirrors most cities and towns, was that there was a non-contributory pension fund. Employees didn't even contribute back in the old days. You would just be given a pension. Then eventually you had to contribute a certain percentage of your salary. It eventually went 5%, 7%, 8%, 9%, and so forth. And then there was an escalator added on of 2% if you had a salary greater than $30,000 a year. These funds went into fund pensions, and over the years, there was a question about, in the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, was enough put into this fund to actually fund ultimately these pensions. And in the old days too, people didn't make as much money as city employees, and so the pensions were quite a bit smaller. We also didn't have, thank God, due to better health care, we have longer life expectancy and greater longevity, so people are collecting for a longer period of time as well. So a number of these factors went into, across the whole state of Massachusetts, what percentage of our pension funds are actually fully funded. And the state, we're actually doing better than the state of Massachusetts in terms of what percentage our pension fund is funded versus even for state employees or other communities like Springfield. So this is something actually Holyoke is doing quite well. And the good news is that in about 6 years, if we do get this fully funded, it would free up money that we're paying in these extra payments to put towards other important priorities of the community, like capital and other things that have been unfunded, such as health benefits, retiree health insurance, a number of other important priorities of the community. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nairobi. So I want just some clarifying questions. I'm here as a Holyoke resident. So if I'm understanding correctly, because you have some expertise in being in the finance committee, am I correct on that, on our current city council?
I'm a member of the finance committee, correct.
Okay, so that allows you to give some expertise around some of the issues with finances, because you're privy to some of that information while you're discussing what's going on. Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the city has not been able to reconcile our current finances because the current system that we have is ineffective.
That's not my opinion.
Okay.
My opinion is we have ineffective leadership.
Okay.
Because, again, it's not just that I have a seat on the finance committee that informs my opinion. I've also been doing this for approximately 30 years. And I also have an MBA, and I've been a senior executive in corporate finance. But putting all that aside, I will also just say that what I know is we've had the same system in place, if that's what we're going to call it, for decades.
So it's that.
Hold on, let me just finish and then we can do the follow-up. We've had the same system in place for decades and decades and decades, and we've never had this type of a crisis. We've never had where we're getting shut down on our local aid from July 1st, and we've never had these type of situations where lost bond rating for a year and a half and all these other things that have occurred that I pointed out during my presentation. So this is quite different. And so what I'm suggesting is we need effective leadership in these positions. Now,
well, I want to just specifically know about the system.
Yep.
Because you're saying that the current system that we have in the past has not failed, so we've consistently reconciled always all our books, the system hasn't had any issues, or is the current system ineffective where we need to establish a new system that will allow us to reconcile and to do the correct reporting that we need to. So I'm just talking, not specifically your perspective or what you think would work, it's just currently right now and in the years past with your experience in the finance committee, this system that we currently have, is there an issue with this current system that's not allowing us to reconcile?
Well, a couple points you make there. Number one is it's not that we've never had any issues ever before, so that's certainly not the case. We've had, in my opinion, at various points, other weak leadership. I know myself, I was as equally critical of the Treasurer's Office back in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, where we had Inspector General reports talking about a number of leadership deficiencies, things that just shouldn't have happened. And again, it came down to weak leadership at the time. So one of the takeaways from that was the original DLS recommendation, this talk about what a real reform should be. They suggested that we have an appointed treasurer in 2007. That was their main recommendation, that we leave elected treasurer to go to appointed treasurer. What we just voted recently. Well, the council and the mayor at that time and the elected leadership ultimately did bring that twice to a vote. And the public voted it down. So, ultimately the people are in charge of their own government, right? So that proposal to go to an appointed treasurer did go to the public for a vote. So they chose not to do that, but this time they did choose to do that. And that's what I'm suggesting we should have, is that we have this appointed treasurer that the public voted for. Thank you. Okay, and it looks like we're at time, so thank you so much.
I want to thank everyone who came. It was really great. To your point in the back, this is the purpose of these arrangements and these gatherings, is to bring out different ideas and explore them. And I think we've done that pretty well tonight. Again, I want to thank the Senior Center. It's a wonderful place and it works well for us. And with that, I wish you well. If you want, either leave your email with Kevin or someone whom you know, and we can add you to our list of when we have a meeting, or you can email to me, and my name was on that the flyer that was out there and tell me that you want to be put on our group. So thank you and good night.
Good job.
Working, then it's not working.